CNBC Sport today is releasing a new video cast, a podcast that you can actually see, right?
What a concept.
With NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. We are in a visual medium here, after all, right?
It's like a TV show, practically.
It is. Alex Sherman is the guy behind that CNBC Sport video cast now. And he asked the commissioner about what's always a hot topic for fans these days, and that's the officiating. So could refs be actually replaced, or at least be aided by things like robots and artificial intelligence? And take a listen to this.
We're hoping through Hawkeye-type technology that we can automate those calls. So it would just be Laker ball, you'd quickly play on. Sure, there'll be some animation that will quickly show, so it's not a black box, what the AI is demonstrating. Because remember, in Hawkeye, it's sometimes people watch it, think it's just a video replay. It's not video, it's an AI recreation of the ball hitting. And I think if we could take that category of calls, automate them.
So the guy who did that interview is Alex Sherman, who's sitting right over there. He joins us along still with Stifel's CEO, Ron Kruszewski, who's sticking around for the entire hour. Both sports fans, these guys. But Alex, let's start with you about the content of this particular video cast and what exactly you were trying to get out of NBA Commissioner Adam Silver with regard to the future of the game.
Yeah, so we spoke for about, excuse me, my voice is a little sore from talking to Adam for so long. We talked a lot about the future of the game. That part of it was sort of like, is parity better than dynasties? How do we fix the salary cap so that we can have an intended result, or is that something that a commissioner can even do? We talked about the big media rights deal that the NBA had. He sort of lamented not being able to come to a deal with Warner Brothers Discovery, which has had an almost 40-year partnership, Turner Sports that is, more recently owned by Warner Media Discovery, almost 40-year partnership with the NBA that's ending, assuming that they're pending litigation. They're actually suing the NBA right now to potentially still try to get in there and have a media package deal, but we'll see how that bears out. That I thought was very interesting. Adam Silver talked to me about how national politics in the NBA mix and trying to keep politics out of the game, especially as we have an election coming up. He talked about the future of sports betting and why he's so pro-sports betting, even in this sort of climate where we've already seen a scandal in the NBA.
Yeah, a lifetime ban.
Yeah, a lifetime ban, exactly.
I'd love to see the clock rolled back on that one, but I'm guessing I'm the only one here who feels that way.
Well, Adam Silver certainly doesn't. I mean, he's very pro-sports betting, and his point was that if you make this legal, then it's all out in the open. So actually, from a scandal purpose, he wants it legalized because you can see the betting. It's easier to figure out the scandals if it's above board than if it is below board, at least in his opinion.
Well, we were having some controversial discussions earlier about how exactly is the AI going to work on calls? Is it every play, or is it just when there's some controversy?
Yeah, so, look, I think Adam Silver wants AI to speed up the game. So to avoid going to replay and taking a look, you would have automated calls similar to how tennis uses it.
Yep.
He mentioned that Hawkeye in the bite, so that the crowd would see an animation and you'd figure out if a player stepped on a line or who did the ball go off of. He used the example of, sometimes it's like there's two hands on the ball, so maybe you could come up with an animation that showed that, and you could see the crowd participating in it, liking it. And maybe the best part is, from a player perspective, there's nobody to argue to, right? You can't argue with the robot. So even that will speed up the game a little bit. So that's the type of call, I think, that you'll see it, and it won't replace officials altogether.
So, Ron, you're a fan, just like I am, of sports in general, basketball, everything else out there. Do you feel as though the robotic side of things does have a future in this game?
Well, of course. And what I hope, though, as a fan, all right, and maybe to take the other side, who's going to argue with the NBA, by the way, one of the most successful leagues, period, end of story. So on whether it's balls out of bounds, whether you step on the bound, like tennis, is it out or in the Hawkeye? That makes sense. Those are the calls that are pretty easy, balls and strikes, whether you're out at first. But calling a foul, I feel that like AI in my business, okay? Humans with AI will do better. Refs with AI might do better, but don't tell me that AI is going to decide that that's a foul and that's not, as I just touch you. And what is the intent? And frankly, speed up the game. Can you imagine the last 2 minutes of a game if every call is disputed? Actually, football.
Automated?
I think football slowed down. I'm so sick and tired of seeing these replays. That as a fan, I'd like to see less of it.
Yeah, then maybe they can make it quick. And I remember him saying they had a hard time with like projecting the human hand or something, and then that was part of what was going to make it difficult to use this technology appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, it will be used, I think, in bits and spurts. They'll try to figure out where it's most useful, and then maybe it expands over time.
Yeah.
All right. Alex Sherman, thank you very much.